Hi, I'm Noah from Floating Leaves Tea, and today I want to talk about a new tea on our menu. It's called Traditional High Mountain Oolong. I spent some time earlier today on a YouTube live session, and everything kind of went amok with the tech, so I thought I would re-record the tea. What makes this tea really special for me is it's a tea that the first tea that I went to go see the processing from start to finish. So I saw the picking all the way through to the firing and the rolling. So originally I thought I would take a lot of video and interview people and blah, 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 blah. And then I realized, crap, I just have this one little DSLR camera. I can't very well do that. So I took a lot of video. I'll impose a lot of the video over this video so you can see a little bit of the steps in the processing. But I thought I'll just kind of talk my way through what happened when I was there. So what makes the tea special is the reason I call it traditional High Mountain Oolong rather than any other High Mountain Oolong, or the name of the place. A lot of times we use the name of the place. It's because it's oxidized a little bit more dark. Kind of like Dongding. The person who was in charge of the fermenting or oxidizing, whichever word you want to use. They use the word fermenting here. The person was from Dongding, so he took his Dongding skills and applied them to a really high elevation tea. So it has kind of the prettiness and the complexity of High Mountain Oolong, but it has the broth of a Dongding, and it has a little bit of the throat of a Dongding. It's not roasted. I actually kind of want to roast the tea, but it has the throatiness of Dongding tea. So I think it's a really fun tea. First, I kind of want to talk about just my experience from start to finish. So I went up there. A friend who actually owns the farm said, "Hey, do you want to come up with me? I'm going to be making tea today, and this is the last chance last chance you're going to get to go up, so you better go up with me," basically. And I was like, I have to buy tea from somebody else, but okay, I'll go up with you. So I went up with him. It was like a 3-hour-ish drive over really windy roads, really beautiful scenery up in the mountains. The tea farm is located in a place called Jianshi, which is near a indigenous village. The English the kind of romanization of the indigenous language, they call it Smangus. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's S-A-M or S-M-A-N-G-U-S, and it sounds really funny to me. I like the word a lot, Smangus. In Chinese, it's Sima Kusi, and in that area, it's not very many tea fields, actually. A lot of old cypress forests and a lot of kind of remote indigenous villages. It's really beautiful. So we're driving up. It took a long time to get there. We get there and they're picking tea. I think they started picking about 7:30 in the morning, this tea. And of course it's really fun to watch people pick tea. I did a little bit of tea picking myself. I'm not nearly as fast or as skilled as them, but it was kind of fun. The most interesting thing that happened during the tea picking for me is I took a little leaf off the plant. Whenever I'm in a tea field, I like to take a leaf off the plant and just taste it. It's not very comfortable, because the caffeine and whatever else is in the tea is kind of unrefined at that point. So it's a kind of a strong hit of caffeine or energy or whatever. I took the tea leaf in, I chewed it. It's really astringent, it's really bitter. But there was this kind of like this heart of aroma, like this really intense floral citrus kind of aroma just like tea aroma that's in the very center, very much encased in bitterness and astringency. But it was interesting to me to taste that and then kind of watch it as time went on, and I watched the tea from start to finish, see that flavor slowly not only come to the surface but also open and become more refined. So yeah, we got there. They were picking the tea. Then we took a big batch of tea to the factory, which is maybe 15 minute drive away. They're doing what they call outdoor withering under the sun. So the sun starts to starts the process of oxidation. It gets into the cells of the leaf and starts to, just like any other plant, if you let it sit out in the sun, it starts to break the cells and the enzymes start to move. And it's something that I never really realized before. It's not just getting the enzymes to move from cell to cell. That sounds like really, it sounds really abstract. It's actually, what I was realizing was they're getting the water that's kind of like has all of the stinky smells and that's naturally present in the tea leaf, that astringency and the bitterness too. They're trying to get the water to move through the veins of the tea leaf. So you think about a leaf when it's alive, the veins work to provide, just like veins in our body, there's arteries and there's veins, and it's like the way that the leaf perspires when it's alive. So when you take the leaf off, it still has the same mechanisms. It perspires. And when it's perspiring, you can get it, if you get it to perspire in the correct way, you can get it to take those stinky smells that make the leaf feel unrefined and unpleasant and get them to evaporate out of the leaf. So that's outdoor withering. Then there's indoor withering, which is essentially the same thing, but they use, instead of using the energy from the sunlight, they use the energy of flipping the leaves to continue the enzymes moving, continue the water moving within the leaf. So it kind of becomes, wilted and wilted and wilted and wilted, and then they go in there and they fluff them all up, and the leaf kind of curls up, and it becomes more wilted and wilted and wilted, and then again they flip it, and the leaf becomes more, springy again. And that's the job of the guy who was from Dongding. That's what he's watching, is to see from the smell what is the right time to flip the leaves, to keep it alive, and then really focus on the most beautiful part of the tea leaf. And that was the most interesting part for me, is just keep going in and smelling it over and over and over and over again. Like just the entire day smelling the leaves so many times to really get a good feel. And this guy, actually everyone there was so generous with me, giving me really, sharing like really, really deep knowledge that they've acquired over lifetimes. Even the people that just, work doing manual labor, they've been in tea at least 10 or 15 years, anyone that was in the factory that day. And everyone was sharing stuff with me, and it was incredible. And this guy from Dongding was also really generous with me, and he just kept telling me, like, you really just need to smell it, and then he would give me a little hint, like, okay, now you can see there's like, it's like all the flavors are coming into one. It's almost like there's one line, and then when those flavors come into one line, it feels more comfortable when you smell the tea broth. Or in this case, when you're smelling the leaves, it can go further into the body. It's just a more comfortable tea. It's a with a lot of traditional teas that I've drank in my life, those are the kind of things that I'm looking for, is it has that ability to come together in the one line, and then therefore has more penetration into the body. So that's another reason why I call it traditional Hai Mountain Oolong. I'm still drinking Shopur. I'm going to switch real quick. So, I'm going to use a pot to brew this tea. I got my little alcohol burner down here to keep my pot hot. I do like a guy one for this tea too, but I really just wanted to save that Shopur to keep drinking it later. It's probably like 5:30 or 6 here right now. And at night I like to drink Shopur. Okay. Just smelling the wet leaves, it still smells like a Hai Mountain Oolong. I mean, it is a Hai Mountain Oolong. The difference being that the notes are just a little bit lower. So if you're having notes like lilac and citrus in like a kind of like a standard, I don't know, Shanlinchi or Alishan or something like that, the notes are just a little bit more towards tropical fruit. I think of it like maybe mango or peach, actually. It just takes the notes down just a little bit. So that's what it does to the flavor notes. It's really sweet. It's really complex. It's not as brilliant as other high mountain oolongs are. I honestly don't really know what to say. I mean, there's a lot of really beautiful notes in there, but you really have to taste it for yourself to know. It's like I said, there's a lot more fruit aromas, and there's a fatness. I keep saying that over and over again. There's a fatness to this scent, not just the broth, but the actual scent. That other high mountain oolongs that I've had that are lightly oxidized feel more delicate. And this one it has a puffiness not only to the broth but to the scent. So it feels thicker as it goes up. It's not been roasted either. It's just because of the oxidation is higher. And there's a floral scent in here too, but it's not like the floral from other high mountain oolongs. It's almost a little bit closer to rose, but not quite. I don't know what flower it is, but it's really beautiful. More round though, not as striking. That's a little bit more round. So, and the broth is amazing. That's really what struck me about this tea. Because we drank it like so many times. We just kept drinking it and drinking it and drinking it. Over and over and over again. For like 24 hours would be an exaggeration, but not too far off. We just, after it was heated, Kilgreen, which I'll come back to in a minute, the leaves are still wet, but they're basically decided. Like that's the level of oxidation it's going to be. So at that point, we just kept drinking it over and over again. And it's hard to see what the final product is going to be, especially because I don't have experience doing that. But when I went to my friend's shop, I sat down, and it was like a day after we came back. We got to Taipei at like 10 p.m. And then I rested for a day, and then I came back again to his shop in the morning, and I was like, hey, do you still have some of that tea? And he's like, I actually sold out most of it, but I have a little bit left. You want to try it? I said, yeah, totally. And it was the broth that struck me. The aroma was really beautiful, but the broth has a way of presenting itself. It's really comfortable. It can go a little bit further into the body than what I would consider like a more classic high mountain oolong, like a kind of high mountain oolong that I'm more familiar with. And again, there's a puffiness. I mean, you gotta taste it, but there's a puffiness as it goes down too. Yeah, it's really pretty, and really satisfying. So after they do the indoor withering, there's a final step to that process. They call it da lang. I call it big flip. That's where they put it in a big tumbler, a big bamboo tumbler. And when it's tumbling around in there, you just keep smelling it again, but it's only like 15 minutes, so it's a lot shorter. The other processes take hours. The previous process of indoor withering is hours, This process is like 15 minutes or so, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, depending on the tea. But it's turning in there, and then the leaves are kind of just getting really shaken up because, as the thing goes around, they keep turning over inside of the big tumbler. And that's what really gets those enzymes to start moving, that water to start moving again. And when you take out the leaf, it may be giving away too many secrets, but when you take out the leaf after the big shake or the big flip, it's wilted before you put it in there. When you take it out, it should stand up kind of like this. Not completely, but kind of like that kind of shape. So this process really stimulates the leaf to kind of give up all the rest of that stinky stuff that's in there. And then after that, they let it rest. Again, for a few hours, they let it rest. And then when you first smell it, this was fascinating to me. When you first smell it, when it's resting, it smells like really, really, there's a word, ching. It's like a stinky green, or like a, not really stinky. It's like the stimulating smell of pineapple or like a banana peel, that kind of like sharpness, that really starts to come out in the resting phase. And then it starts to mellow out, and you can really smell the heart of the tea. And that's what I was talking about at the beginning. That heart of the tea is that was in the leaf in the very beginning. The whole process, it's a really complicated process, almost, an entire day. We started at 7:30. It was probably 3 in the morning by the time it was finished resting. Maybe, For that batch that came into the factory at 7:30, it was probably more like midnight by the time it was done resting. But still, it's a long time. So as it rests, it lets off all of those sharp smells. And they don't even call it scent; they call it that ching. That lets out all that stuff. And then what's left is this kind of floral, just tea aroma. And then they kill green with a big tumbler, hot tumbler. You've probably seen it before in videos. That kind of decides where the oxidation stops, like how long you let it rest, how long all that kind of stuff. So at that point, it's not a finished product, but it's as decided as it's going to be. And then they start with the drying and the rolling and the drying and the rolling, and eventually you get those little tiny, really dry little balls of tea. But at that point, you can start drinking it. So that's where I thought it was like the most interesting part was that big shake, because it's changing so quickly at that point. Anyway, it was just fascinating to me to see this tea go from start to finish, and then see it slowly change over time. And slowly the personality came more forward from being really hard and actually really uncomfortable to taking to my body to being something that tastes really good and feels really satisfying and good. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I really want to roast this tea, actually. I talked to the guy, the Dongding master, who was involved with the oxidation process. He told me that he would help me to roast a little bit of this tea. So I'm actually going to take some of it to roast, if I can hold on to a little bit, if you guys don't buy it up by that time. Right now in Taiwan, there's a little bit of a COVID problem. It came in about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And now it's really started to come up again. So we're kind of locked down. I can't go and see him. But hopefully in the next month or so, I'll be able to go see him and see if he'll roast his tea. And we can see what will happen. I'm actually really interested to see what will happen if I roast this tea. Also, this tea has a lot of buds. A lot of tender leaves, like little tiny leaves at the top, which means it's not only it's harder to process it well. So it's harder to get that much stinky stuff that's in the stem through that little tiny surface area of the little leaf. I learned that from one of the workers there. He's fascinating. He's been working on tea for 35, 40 years. And, just like labor, go in and do the work, but he knows it so well. He's been doing it so long. Like, no one calls him master, but it was great to talk to that guy. And seriously, everyone that was there was amazing to me. They were amazing to me. But the fact that they have so many tender leaves means that you can use a lot less leaves to brew it, or you should use a lot less leaves to brew it, or else it'll be too strong. Because there's just that much more stuff in a smaller volume. But yeah, the broth is, and now it's a little bit more open. The broth is beautifully clear. It's like this kind of slight orangish color. It has, yeah, what am I trying to say? It's more golden than it is orange. But it has a little bit of that redness of more oxidized tea. Yeah, it's beautiful. It does lead with like a. It's almost hard to define the note. It's actually it's a really well integrated tea. But that almost like mango floral thing that's happening in there really leads the tea. And it just feels so. It feels so thick. Thick is the right word. Viscous. Oh, and the scent is addictive. Yeah, really thick. Really thick. So yeah, that's the tea. That's what I want to share with you guys today. So, thanks for joining me. I'll hopefully be coming out with some more videos kind of like this to share what I'm learning here. In the meantime, we're releasing a new tea. There's a new tea on the menu as of this morning. It's a Jin Shuan. It's actually milk oolong. I call it milk and honey. It's really sweet. It's been slightly charcoal roasted. It's really good. And we're in the talks of doing a blind, or not even blind, just a high mountain tasting. So yeah, keep up to date on our social media stuff, and I'll see you next time.